Here's a typical street in Atlanta. And here's another. They look like streets in thousands of other towns in the United States, but there's something about them that sets them apart. In amongst houses that have steps at every entrance are houses that welcome visits from the 1 in 20 people in the United States who have mobility impairments, and the friends and relatives who travel side by side with them. The unique thing about these houses is that even though they were deliberately built with access, they were built for occupants who do not have disabilities. Some people realize that typical new homes create needless, insurmountable barriers for people with mobility impairments. Typical new homes still have steps at every entrance and have bathroom doors that are narrower than any other interior passage door, whether that house costs $60,000 or $260,000.
I would like to create a world where disabled kids can move around different than when I moved around as a kid. And I work with Concrete Change, which is a housing access organization. I had polio when I was 3, and basically have been using a wheelchair ever since. I have lots of memories. I remember being about 8 or 9, playing in my friend's yard, and a big storm blew up, and her mother raced to get us in the house. And while she was pulling me up the steps, I kind of fell on her. I slipped and made a bruise on her leg that swelled up right there. And it was just one of many incidents, but I remember my feeling, I'm too much trouble.
It really does kind of take away the enjoyment of socializing when you're not able to at least get in, or to, at minimum, get through, once you get in, to get through a bathroom door. And those things are so basic and simple when you think about it.
I can think of a number of times where I felt frustrated because either I had difficulty maybe accessing somebody's house, or once I got in and I was ready to go and they were ready for me to go.
You have to think about how much you're going to drink while you're there. You know, you have to think about, you know, ahead of time. It's almost like feeling like a kid again. You know, well, have you gone to the bathroom before you go?
When I can access somebody's restroom or get into their door, I go home. I might go to a hospital. I'll go somewhere where I can get where I know there's an accessible restroom.
You know, and sometimes you just get tired of thinking about it all the time. You'd like to just be able to access things like everybody else.
Ironically, when I think about the houses that I go to of my friends, they are usually in chairs, or they have some type of disability that makes their house accessible. But my non-disabled friends, I usually don't go inside their house.
We built the house for Kate to have a lot of freedom, and when she's inside the house, she has that. It's really beautifully accessible for her. But that accessibility ends at the end of the driveway. We feel lucky here to have one very good family of neighbors who have put in a ramp, and so Kate can go into Kathleen's house and play with Kathleen and her brother. Kathleen can come here and play with Kate. Kate can go there independently, so when they get ready to leave one house, they can go down the street without adults and go into Kathleen's house. And it's a shame that in a neighborhood this big, there is only one house like that. And Kate can't have that experience with more of her friends.
People say that it's market-driven, but I cannot imagine anyone walking into a new home and saying, oh my God, a 32-inch doorway, rip it out.
Starting in 1986, Concrete Change began contacting groups that were doing affordable housing in partnership with poor people, because we felt like they would already have an open mind to housing fairness and equality. Why not add the access aspect? Basic wheelchair access to every new house, 32-inch doors, including the bathroom, one no-step entrance.
I viewed it as an increase in cost to Habitat, and so I was reluctant to say, yes, we will do that. But as I priced things out, the doors, for instance, using a 32-inch wide door versus what we normally use was a 30-inch wide door, there was no difference in the cost from the supplier.
He said that the interior features could be made easily, the doors, it could be done overnight, but that he wasn't sure about the no-step entrances.
It depends on the layout of the land, the slopes and all, but we try to have a no-step entrance on whatever would be cheapest for us. And we have found that we can do that if we plan the house out without a maximum of maybe $200 increase in the cost of our house. And I think we've been well under that on most of the houses where we built our ramps. This is our no-step entrance. There will be a slight threshold right here at the door, but it's something that the wheelchair can come over very easily. Another thing that we do, which has absolutely no impact on cost, is we put our outlets at 24 inches instead of the conventional 18 inches. And that makes it easier for someone in a wheelchair to use the outlets in our houses. The entrance into the bathroom area is 37 inches wide, and into the bathroom itself we have a 32-inch opening. That makes it easy for the wheelchair. They can shut the door behind them. Listening to Eleanor, she convinced us that handicapped folks should be able to feel a part of a neighborhood. I think that's a real easy thing for builders to do. Just plan to do that in the early stages. For us to be able to spend just $200 extra to do that seems to me to be the right thing for us to do.
So visitability is really different from full access. Full access is like for a specific disabled occupant in a house. They may need a roll-in shower. They may need the cabinets lowered. But that's not what visitability is about. Visitability is universal, basic access everywhere.
My brother's handicapped and he's in a wheelchair. And when I stayed in apartments, I had a lot of steps. And he didn't like visiting me because someone would have to carry him up the stairs, and he really didn't like that. I really miss seeing my brother, the times that he wouldn't visit, which I understood. And now since I'm in a house and it has a ramp and the bathroom is made accessible for him to go in and out, I'm really happy that I can see him more. And he's really happy too about it. And I just thank God. Well, when my arms are loaded with groceries, I don't have to watch my step coming up, stairs. I can just come on up the ramp.
People don't realize is that lack of access to their home doesn't just impact me, but impacts people in my family. I'm married and have a 9-year-old daughter, and she meets other neighbors before we meet them, and then ultimately those neighbors want to have us all together. And so what's happened sometimes is even in her mind, she begins to think about, well, is my dad going to be able to get in, their house?
The ways you can achieve a no-step entrance are not unusual construction methods. They don't involve anything that you might consider difficult or weird. It's just a matter of using your common sense. In your legislation, you offer the option of a single no-step entrance that could be at any point of the house. It could be the front, the side, through the garage, at the back. What you're doing is offering opportunities for siting the house in such a way that at least at some point you take advantage of the site and make that no-step entrance possible. You don't have to have a flat lot to have an inexpensive no-step entrance. If a lot is higher in the front than the back, you may make your access at the front, possibly with a short bridge. If a lot is higher in the back than the front, you can create your access at the side or back of the house, or at the front on a route leading directly from the driveway. If a lot is higher on one side than the other, you put your driveway on the high side. This house appears to be impossible for access, and in fact, it has 13 steps up to the front. But a driveway leads to the back, and that's the entrance the non-disabled residents of the house use, and also the entrance a disabled visitor would use. 2/3 of all new houses have attached garages or carports, and you can have easy access if you build with no step up into the house from the garage instead of the usual 1 or 2 steps. Among the relatively few situations where a no-step entrance is not practical are houses on pilings in a floodplain or houses on steep lots that are also so narrow that there's no room for a driveway and no back alley entrance either.
The city asked us to consider making it at least accessible with minimum requirements for the handicap. If you notice, the entrance from the garage and into the house is without steps, without ramps. One can roll the wheelchair right into this entrance without having to have any assistance from anyone.
I mean, how could anyone guarantee that someone buying a speculative house wouldn't have a disability that would require some modifications to the construction for them to be able to buy the home? Why not just have that be a part of the construction to begin with, and it's not an issue, not a question. It doesn't limit them from buying the home, and it doesn't even restrict the market for the seller. I mean, it opens it up to everyone.
Basic access as a routine part of new homes makes it possible for people with disabilities and their families and friends to be part of life instead of staying home isolated. Makes it easier for people who become permanently or temporarily disabled to stay in their homes instead of having to disrupt their lives and their families' lives by moving to a different house or moving into a nursing home. Makes it possible for the day to come when low-income disabled people won't have to stay inside because they can't afford to ramp the steps that keep them from coming down into their own yard. The steps that make them fear for their lives because they can't get off their porch. Let's disabled renters and buyers find a place to live instead of answering ad after ad where they can't even get inside to check the place out. Let's non-disabled people feel at ease instead of uncomfortable or apologetic about inviting disabled people to their home. Makes it possible for everyone to bring in the bike, pull in the wagon, cart in the heavy goods, roll in the baby carriage.
See, now is the time to take action to create basic access to all new houses.
It's a matter of fairness and including people, and it's practical.
Open the door and come on in. I'm so glad to see my friend. You're like a rainbow coming around the bend. And when I see you happy, well, it sets my heart free. I'd like to be as good a friend to you as you are to me. I used to think it was only me, living alone, not feeling free, to be alive, to be a friend. Now I know we all have stormy weather. The sun shines through when we're together. I'll be your friend right through to the end. Open the door and come on in. I'm so glad to see you, my friend. You're like a rainbow coming around the bend. And when I see you happy, well, it sets my heart free.
be as good a friend to you as